Maui's just joking about a human sacrifice, or is he?
Ask about Illuminati, since the charting of Beatles. Is it Disney mind control? Is this MK Ultra Deluxe? Occult Disney, we go from real to real. Occult Disney, Bohemian Grove and no more real. Occult Disney, ask about Illuminati. Occult Disney, we teach occult to everybody. Occult Disney, the wish upon a star. Occult Disney, you know not to travel far. Oh, Occult Disney, the new brand Pinocchio. Yeah, yeah. Occult Disney, it's a boss over below. Occult Disney, please enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the Occult Disney podcast, where we go searching for all the secrets found in the sea. It's Moana today. This is Matt here. Over there, it's a Paranoid American. How's your swimming skill?
I'm actually a reptilian shapeshifter, just like one of the main characters in this movie.
Yeah, but some reptiles don't like water, right? I mean, I'm thinking, you got water serpents, sea snakes. I've been to Okinawa. You got to be careful of the sea snakes there. They're super poisonous.
They'll do just fine. Reptiles can handle water just fine.
Yeah. What's kind of creepy, you're snorkeling or whatever, and you're probably 10, 20 meters above, but you look down and you can see one of those guys on the ground sometime. And you're like, that thing is like venomous as hell.
They're not cute. So a lot of people like to keep them as pets. I don't know. I think I would prefer a snake over a lizard as a pet.
Really? Okay, I'm going to go lizard over snake, but maybe I've mentioned the story before where I used to do environmental education in South Carolina. Before that, I was kind of I didn't love snakes, but snakes didn't bother me. But working there, I'm taking kids through a forest where I'm always like having to, see poisonous snakes in the path. We found coral snakes living behind our drawers in the office.
Well, I'm not advocating to keep a poisonous snake. That's not my favorite.
I was walking by a tree once and a snake fell out of the tree. That didn't make me happy.
I mean, I guess, but it would be the same for pretty much any reptile, no? If you just
it was a snake, so I'll take the lizard over the snake.
Okay,
lizards got some hands. I can see what they're doing. Snakes don't have any hands. Of course, here we get, I guess, a reptile with some appendages.
Well, it's a god, though, right? Is it a reptile if it's a god? Doesn't the god part
I get
the reptile?
Yeah. I don't know. Is the reptile living at the center of the earth a god, or is it just
like
a reptilian?
Was Zeus a swan, or was Zeus?
When he wanted to be, sometimes he was a calf, and then he'd become amorous with a lady as a calf. Is that how the myths work? I don't remember. It's been a while since I hit those.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like once you convert to an animal, you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm an animal.
Sword in the stone rules.
So Moana, is this your first view of this? This is one that did play. Actually, I watched it. I realized I have a little USB drive that I haven't used in years. I was like, oh, that's what we used to plug in a TV and play Moana on. And alas, it was still there. So I just watched that.
This is the first time that I've seen it. I could understand, though, if this one in the household of a girl growing up, this might be like a regular rotation one.
Yeah, this actually is probably box office wise, it didn't really touch Frozen, but cultural imprint wise, it's a little bit behind Frozen. As I said, I often go by how many of my kids have t-shirts, socks, and thermoses with Disney characters on it. So Anna and Elsa are on way more in Moana, but they like the songs. Moana shows up every once in a while on the kids' ephemera.
Okay, so two things. First, let's ignore the songs for a second. I feel like Moana is superior to Frozen in almost every single way. It is.
I'll agree with you. I'm talking box office and cultural imprint here. As a movie, I prefer Moana easily.
Although, here's the difference: is that I'm not one that likes the musicals. We've been over this a million times. I won't hammer it all the way in, but I'm not a fan of the musicals Frozen was way better music wise than this one was to me. And it's not because I disliked the music in this movie per se. It's just because for the 95% of the movie, until I looked it up at the very end, I thought this was being voiced by Mila Kunis. So every time she went into song, it sounded like Meg Griffin from Family Guy going into song, and it just never hit right. It always sounded a little bit like nails on a chalkboard. And then at the very end, I was absolutely shocked to find out it was not Mila Kunis.
They did hire a 14-year-old Hawaiian to do the voice, so
makes more sense
14.
culturally, and no shade to her, but it was not pleasurable to listen. Whenever it was a song that she was in, I kind of turned the volume down a little bit. Like it was not a pleasurable experience.
Well, the first song was basically "Let It Go Backwards," right? I mean, her first big song. It was her yearning song.
It alternates between her and The Rock. The Rock's the other one that you get to hear singing.
Yeah, we don't need to hear The Rock singing.
There was one song that I particularly thought was really good, and it was the Crab song. And the Crab song, interestingly, it almost sounded like David Bowie a little bit, and I had to do a little bit of research, and apparently the singer did say that he was channeling David Bowie in that song. So I don't know.
Okay.
That was the one I liked best.
I did go looking for that because I was like, there were like 5 different people, and I was like, oh, Fly the Conchords. It's Fly the Conchords guy. Yeah, if you ever saw that show, which if you didn't, you don't.
I have. Yeah, it's fine. Australian comedy show.
New Zealand. Yeah,
or whatever. They're the same place. I don't care if they've got antagonistic histories or whatever.
I was just reading a map book which was talking about how a lot of maps tend to leave New Zealand off accidentally. Like there's an IKEA wall map a few years ago where there's a controversy because they had left New Zealand off. When you start looking, there's lots of other flaws. Like even Scandinavia is like shaped completely wrong, and Norway no longer has fjords. So, I mean, they did take it wasn't supposed to be accurate, but yeah, New Zealand was completely gone. So
when I was in, I don't know, 9th or 10th grade, but I actually got in trouble for bullying, but I wasn't bullying anyone. But there was this kid in our class that was from New Zealand. And I everyone always mistakenly said that he was from Australia because he had the accent, and you just heard the accent and you were like, oh, that's an Australian accent. And at a certain point, it became kind of funny because he got really upset whenever you said he was Australian instead of being from New Zealand. And it just seemed like such a trivial difference. Like, whatever, we're talking. Like, it's like, I'm not Floridian. I'm from, South Georgia. I'm not from North Florida. I'm from South Georgia. Just like, okay, whatever. But we got to the point where nobody acknowledged that he was from New Zealand and always said that he was from Australia. And I got in trouble for leading a little ring of people to just deny this person's New Zealand genealogy.
Well, you and IKEA then. The other fun thing is the same month that controversy happened, they were opening their first store in New Zealand or something. So
you have to fill me in. What controversy? IKEA, New Zealand,
leaving New Zealand off the map. I mean, this is a very small controversy. This isn't an incendiary one or anything.
Yeah, I guess they just like to puff their chest up whenever they have a reason to hey, we're here too.
The thing is, I think the New Zealanders in general, it was I think they think it's funny. At least if you're living in New Zealand, not your classmate.
I hope so. And for the record, I've got way more readers in Australia. I think it goes US and then Australia is number 2. So if it ever comes down to it, I'm team Australia, baby. No shade on New Zealanders, but I've got too many fans and readers in Australia. I'm fighting for the Australians on this one.
My daughter did a homestay in Australia last year, and then they came to visit us in summer. And the guy's we're Australian, and then his wife was Filipina from the Philippines, and he was like, "Oh, I'm actually from New Zealand." So we didn't know what nationality they were.
So speaking of nationalities and stuff, this one it's important maybe to do a little bit of housekeeping, I guess, before we get deep into the movie background and all the different occult readings and stuff. And that's the Polynesian people, because this movie is essentially about Polynesian culture, Polynesian mythology in general, and Polynesian just means many islands, right? Multiple islands. It's all Polynesia means. And historically, when they named these different groups of islands, there was like Polynesia, then there was Micronesia, which were like all of the tiny islands, and then there was Melanesia, which were the black islands, which were just because there was black people that lived on the islands. So out of those three that were like historically European references to these groups of islands, and in typical European fashion, they would just group things that weren't really related to each other. So just because you're in Micronesia doesn't mean that you share culture with everyone else. And just like you're in Melanesia doesn't mean you share culture. When it came to Polynesia, just by dumb luck, they like happened to actually group these different peoples together that did share a very unified and cohesive culture. And it's not because they knew what they were doing when they called it Polynesia. It just kind of happy accident worked out that way. Like they just happened to be right to group all of Polynesia. So when we're talking about New Zealand and Hawaii, because the main character's name is Maui, which is actually a god, which is just the name of someone in Hawaii. The reason why, and they never mention any actual islands. They never mention nationality or countries in this whole movie. So it's kind of up to you to figure out what they're talking about. And it's like, are they talking about Hawaii? Are they talking about a New Zealand right now? They're talking about all of Polynesia, and it all kind of works.
I've actually read a book about Polynesian history or whatever a year ago. And so I'm coming off a little vague on it, but it was talking about how the people, not with the European sort of border classifications, but were basically like they would divide everything into two islands, the atolls, the flat islands, and then the mountain people, because they have mountains on their islands, like Tahiti or something.
Right,
So
but even if they were separating themselves as peoples, they shared a common culture between the two of them, so they had a consistent frame of reference.
Yeah, I was also looking at the map book I was talking about, where it had the New Zealand thing. It also was talking about Marshall Island like stick charts. Have you ever seen these?
Marshall Island stick charts.
It's not just, of course, Marshall Islands is the U.S. designation for this place, or European designation for this place. But yeah, it's like a flat piece of paper, and it's got sticks on it. So nobody in particular knows how to read them anymore. That's what the seafarers would use. So there's only like one or two people left that can actually read these things. But by training, you would like lie in the outrigger or whatever with your eyes closed, and by feeling the waves, you could kind of tell what direction you needed to go in to get to the next island. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense because nobody has the skill anymore, especially now that everyone's got their sat nav, GPS, whatever you want to call it.
I think I would still trust the sat nav over some.
Oh, of course you would. But if you lived in a pre-digital electricity and someone had that skill, it's pretty impressive, But yeah, they have these charts.
Absolutely.
I think they're still sold as like like tourist stuff or whatever, but it's not like it's not a practical thing. So I mean, even by the early 20th century, you've got a compass now, so that's a lot easier probably than learning these arcane skills to be able to just feel waves and know how it works.
So, and also, I just want to preface everything else we're about to say that I do think that this is one of Disney's most accurate non-Western mythology movies ever. Like, they actually seem to go into just enough detail to be concise and leave things just enough vague to be relatable to all the different concepts that they bring up. But this one is kind of on the nose, on the money. You can find all of the different events and the claims and the names backed up by centuries worth of research.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting place in the Disney lineage. This is not a movie that got bopped about. This is kind of like their mainline Disney Renaissance guys for going in for one last hurrah. To date, I don't know. I guess they're 72 now. Musker's 70. They're both, Muster and Clements are both 72. Of course, these are the guys that directed Great Mouse Detective, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, Princess and the Frog, and now Moana. So this is kind of like the A tier, or traditionally A tier directors on this one,
I'd call this A tier. I actually need to sit down with you at one point, and we should just rank all the movies that we've seen just so we can actually see what the top 10 or top 20 are. For sure, this is top 20. I don't know if it's in top 10, but there's a good chance that it could be. This is actually like one of the better Disney movies. There's so many reasons for me to not like it. There was so much going against it. Not even before we bring up Mila Kunis singing the soundtrack. Again, I realize it's not her, but I'm going to say it is. But even with that ignored, there was so much going against this movie, but it still ended up being incredibly entertaining. The animation, the artwork was really good, including we just saw The Good Dinosaur, right? And The Good Dinosaur had this crazy over-the-top photorealistic rendering of Yosemite and Jackson Hole. In this one, it's more cartoonish, but in such a good way, right? Like the actual landscape and the foliage and all the organic stuff was rendered in a way that made me feel like I was watching an animation and not some weird, creepy, sort of like fever dream of A Good Dinosaur.
Here it all blends together, right? The backgrounds and the characters match. The problem with The Good Dinosaur is you had cartoony characters, photorealistic background, and it was like kind of jarring to look at,
Yeah, that one bottom tier. This one's definitely top tier.
Yeah.
Although, is Moana considered a Disney princess?
Yes, she's a princess because her father's a chief. I guess if your daughter a chief, you're kind of a princess, right?
Well, but I would say she's more of a demigod than a princess. Like she's kind of like Maui is a true demigod, right?
Oh, because she's got powers, right? I guess that's
or by the ocean. That seems, or is it the ocean follows her around, not that she controls it?
I feel like the ocean is just interested in her. Like the water spirit has a certain interest in her because she doesn't do like Storm from the X-Men and just her eyes go white and then a gale comes through.
Wasn't that's Ponyo, isn't it?
Ponyo is definitely of the sea, though, right? That's kind of our she was supposed to be kind of a Little Mermaid analogy or whatever,
right? But like the sea would like follow her around.
Right, but Ponyo definitely had more like powers. I mean, she turned herself into a girl, right? So
I guess I could see Moana going that angle, but Moana is sort of, if nothing else, she's magical. She's probably a shaman. I think shaman might be the closest version where she can commune with gods.
I would say she could be a princess shaman, though. I mean, we are following up, Frozen, where Elsa has straight up powers, right? Of course, she's a queen, not a princess. That's Anna, I guess. I don't know.
Is Elsa a shaman? Who are there any other Disney princesses?
Elsa's more of a mutant, right? She's got the power. She's got mutant powers. Moana is more of a shaman, and she's communing with nature, and nature works with her. Don Juan style or something.
Would Pocahontas be a shaman, or is that racist to imply?
Well, she paints with all the colors of the wind, but I don't think she makes anything particularly trippy happen, if I remember.
Okay, she's a maybe. We'll put her down as a solid maybe for shaman.
Also, you were saying like this one at least seems to get the mythology kind of right, whereas Pocahontas got the history so massively wrong, right? So because they couldn't get it right in that case, they couldn't make the movie if they actually stuck to facts.
Yeah, well, if they stuck to like an actual historical Polynesian royalty, I'm sure that would become problematic at some point.
That's why I specify Moana the mythology part, which seems to kind of. Island society might be a little more raw in the real place. I don't know. So
I think the only one that comes as close as this one to the way that they just like broadly attempt to explain like a whole cosmology, and not like a modern version of cosmology, but like a classic version in which you're trying to explain the entire universe and humans' role in that universe and life and death and why, like that kind of a big cosmology. The closest one would have been, was it Hercules? Was that the one that was like ancient Greece?
Yeah, but that one certainly sanded down the edges, right? Again, didn't have it down. Zeus wasn't banging everything that moved in that version.
But I can't think of a lot of other Disney movies in which they were saying like, here's a movie to encapsulate an entire belief system. Like it's Moana and it's Hercules, and I can't really think of a lot of others.
I honestly, if we want to go OG, I think you could kind of slot Snow White in there. I mean, that's like European myth stuff, so it doesn't feel quite as well, so is Hercules, but
kind of sorta, but
Snow White's kind of a nature shaman, right? She like
I mean, I could give you that, although it's not comprehensive enough. If anything, it would be like a Rosicrucian version, but it's not enough of that. Where in Moana, I feel like we get a much bigger dose of it. Like you almost walk away with the movie understanding a tiny little bit of that cosmology, whereas in Snow White, if you don't know what Rosicrucianism is beforehand, you might not pick up on it.
I think, geez, it's been 3 years crazy, but I think when we did Snow White originally, we sort of acknowledged that people in the 30s actually knew a whole lot more of like occultism and stuff, so they didn't need to be told any of that.
Yeah, I'm convinced of that at this point. It's funny because 2026, right? People will be like, "Oh man, we're digging into the craze." Like, look at the date when that book was published. It's like 1919. That means like your great great grandpa probably heard someone talking about it in public, and they didn't have a phone to distract them. So everyone on the bus was probably talking about Moloch and Satan and Lucifer and all these like weird occult rituals. They were probably talking about this way more often than you think.
Yeah, just like how 20 years ago, the Secret was the big book, right? Which, I mean, that gets to, I mean, that's like the dumbest version, I guess you can throw out.
You're going to trigger me bringing up The Secret. I can't.
I'm just saying that was kind of like a more modern flush of that, and it showed up in a bunch of movies. And if you watched a movie around 2010, and even if you didn't read it, you heard about the book or whatever, so you didn't need to be told, right? It was kind of baked in. Even now, if you a kid, a Zoomer watching that movie might get a little thrown off. What the hell is this?
I hope no. If we ever go back to burning books, The Secret's going to be one on the top of my list.
Okay, haven't read it, can't judge it. I get, maybe I can. Okay.
I'll burn all the DVDs too, whatever. Yeah. I don't care. So this movie started out too, and as always, now I can't help this. For the rest of my life, my eyeball is going to immediately go to the runtime, and I looked at this one and I'm like, all right, this one's way closer to 2 hours and it is to an hour and a half. Disney's been treating us pretty nice on the runtimes lately, but I'll give this one a shot. And after that, I don't think I looked at the time until it almost felt like, oh, this is starting to wrap up. And then I realized it was almost over. But I wasn't watching the clock on this one, which is usually a great sign.
I did, but again, I was starting the movie at 11 p.m. So that's kind of
how many times have you seen this total?
I'm going to guess this was time 6 or 7, probably about half a dozen.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Not like, I actually asked my daughter last night. It's like, which do you like better, Frozen or Moana? She was like, I like Moana better. And then I compared it with Zootopia. She said she didn't remember Zootopia. I know we watched that one about 6 times too, but yeah. So Moana stuck in her head. Zootopia did not. I mean, she knows who the characters are. This new movie's real big, right? But she doesn't really remember watching the first one of those. She remembers watching this one.
Zootopia I like so much, but it's for so many adult reasons. And I don't think as a kid, I don't know if Zootopia would have any of the same impression. Like, it wouldn't be as impressive and it wouldn't make the same impact. This one clearly has some pretty awesome visuals, like seeing Maui actually flying through the air and then transform into dude and like slice through the air with his little magical hook, and then turns into a shark, and then turns into like a lizard. Just like seeing all of that happening is such a crazy visual. Like there's nothing to compare to it between those two movies.
No, I mean, I was pretty much in from the start because, I like a good tiki bar, I want a zombie, 4 kinds of rum, knock you off your butt. It's always been a point of pride for me that Atlanta has one of the few remaining Trader Vic's. I think Tokyo has one too. I should go sometime. But yeah, I love Trader Vic's, especially when they got the band playing, like Martin Denny sort of music, that sort of thing. I dig that.
I didn't know you were a tiki guy. I'm not a tiki guy, but I have a close artist friend that specializes in making custom tiki bars for people all over the world. So I've gotten privy to all sorts of crazy tiki culture, and these guys spent a lot of money on tiki stuff.
And you know what? It probably was going to the Magic Kingdom when I was 4 years old, and being at the age where you actually like the tiki room.
The tiki.
That's
room.
Right. That'll never get out of anybody's head.
And you hear it one time and you'll never forget it. It's worse of an earworm than It's a Small World.
I'll take that under consideration.
It's a Small World is more prolific, so you hear it more often and people bring it up more often. But if you were to actually sit down and go on the It's a Small World ride and then go to the tiki room, I feel like the tiki room really drives it in way more, and you're kind of like locked into this like little area where they keep seeing it over and over again.
Oh yeah, they're right. They're right in your face there. That's the difference. Because I'm, at this point in my life, I certainly prefer the Country Bears, but they don't really have an earworm like that, do they?
They change
Davy
it up.
Crockett doesn't quite count.
Yeah, if you go and look at the history of all the songs that the Country Bears have gone through, they have to keep kind of updating it because they're always saying something that slowly becomes offensive over like 5 or 6 years. And they have to update it again.
Not in Tokyo.
Okay, that's another reason that I need to go to.
We still have,
Tokyo.
and they still change it. They do the Christmas one, they do the regular one, they do the summertime one, and the summertime one is where a bear hooks up with an octopus. So,
of course,
yeah.
Japan.
It's great. The Florida one, I believe, is now they redid all the animatronics, so they move real nice now. But now they just do country-fried Disney songs. So they'll do one of these Moana songs, Yeah. So that's kind of a bummer. Do the country version of Under the Sea, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
it's nice they did. It's nice they didn't take it out because they could have easily done that as well. So I guess that's
probably going to happen on a long enough timeline. I think the original cool part about Country Bears, though, it was like the one janky part of Disney for a while, but it was acceptably janky because it's the freaking Country Bears. Like you expect it to be a little janky, so it felt like it was part of
instruments are janky. I would call the Tiki Room jankier though, but there's smaller things. So I guess there's a lot more clicking in the Tiki Room.
Yeah, a little more dated feeling.
Yeah, but anyway, I wonder if I don't think they specifically were like, we got a bunch of kids into this vibe with the Tiki Room, so let's make Moana. But hey, maybe they did. I don't know.
No, I think that legitimately Polynesian culture is absolutely fascinating for so many different reasons. So Tiki Room can exist completely independent of Moana, and they both have like a very similar allure to them. I
do have to put out though what I like, and I've read Polynesian history books. I think that's interesting. You're correct. Polynesian culture is very deep and interesting and cool. But the thing that got me is the dumb fake version from the 50s and 60s, right? Like the Tiki Room, like Martin Denny and Les Baxter's music, like the zombie rum drink. That's American culture,
Yeah, fair enough. I mean. So and also, I don't know if you know this, there was a movie from the 1920s called Moana, or almost. It was trying to be a documentary, and it was made by, I'm flaking on the guy's name, but he made Nanook, which was the first commercially successful motion picture ever in history, I believe.
I've seen some of that, but I didn't watch all of it because I got bored.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was great for the 1920s.
I've watched all 3 hours of Intolerance. I've watched Metropolis multiple times. Dr. Caligari. I'm not slamming silent movies here. I'm saying Nanook of the North was particularly boring.
So Nanook of the North, he went to follow that up, and he tried to make a movie called Moana. And Moana was basically about a Polynesian girl that was of the sea. It wasn't necessary. I don't think Disney took that plot line and was like, let's turn that into a movie. I don't think that's what happened, but it's just interesting because it's very coincidental, at least the beginning of the story. Although the interesting part is that the director ends up drinking some water while they were in Polynesia from like a cave system, but the cave system had like silver oxide. I'm making up some of this because I can't remember the exact chemical, but he ends up like poisoning himself, so it became like one of his last movies, or at least it wasn't a very great movie for him or anyone else, and they didn't necessarily finish it.
Oops. By the way, I just want to mention a few name changes of this movie in Europe. It was changed to the name Vaiana because of trademark, but the fun one is I'm reading here, in Italy the film was released with the title Oceana. Media outlets speculated that the name change was to avoid confusion with Italian pornographic actress Moana Pozzi, which that sounds pretty entertaining.
Yeah, so if you go on IMDb and you search Moana, you'll see a couple pretty racy covers that show up right next to this Disney one.
Hey, as a teacher, when you're doing a Google search or something, like a kid wants to see a cartoon character, you're always like, don't scroll down.
Yeah.
Leave it at the top of the page, please. Rule through whatever rule it is will kick in if you scroll down, especially if it's an anime character.
So
Or
Moana
Elsa Gate again, right? We never talked about Elsa Gate on this podcast, have we? Interesting.
That's kind of old news now, right? That was like 10 years ago. It
is. I think we didn't talk about when we did Frozen. That's what I find fascinating. Anyway, we don't need to talk about it now.
This is one of the first movies in a while that I think Disney explicitly talks about demons, like by name demons. Even if you start seeing character, again, Hercules, I think, was one of the other ones.
Directed by Musker and Clements. Princess and the Frog, directed by Musker and Clements.
Okay, yeah, so maybe that's the common
that's their
theme
vibe, I guess. They like
demons.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if that's their thing, I guess I can get that. But it is fascinating that we just named the movies that were also directed by them. Like in sequence, it was Hercules. Oh, Treasure Planet. No demons there, I don't recall. And yeah, Princess of the Frog and this. And then Little Mermaid. I mean, Ursula is pretty demon-like.
Yeah, well, but demon-like, but no one actually calls her a demon. We don't actually come up with
a witch.
Yeah, I think totally different though. A witch is just someone that maybe like tries to summon demons, but a demon is like an entirely different entity.
I guess Aladdin suggests jinn.
Fair, yeah, I guess that is a fair point.
I'm just digging. I'm just looking through other movies, and Great Mouse Detective, I don't believe had any demons in it.
No, okay, so it's a short list, even if there is a list. Maybe there's like 5 to 10 total.
Yeah, I just wanted to consider all the films real quick, but Jinn actually is good. Yeah, with the Little Mermaid, Witch is a different thing, and that's a traditional Disney thing from all the way back. So I don't think I can really count.
The only other explicit ones, I'll give you Jinn, but I would think it would be Fantasia, where you get Chernabog. I think that one's actually. Even though they don't say demon, because they don't really say anything in that movie.
You can't make anything look more like a demon than that, right?
I guess so, yeah.
That's like if you go in the dictionary, that's the picture next to the word demon, isn't it? That or like a little devil or something.
So the
Hot Stuff, that's his name.
The whole thing with the ocean following Moana around, is this the ocean protecting her, or is it her controlling the ocean? Do we even have a consensus on this?
That's where we were talking about is she superpowered and a mutant like Elsa, or is she just a nature shaman? We still have Moana 2 to watch.
Okay, jury's still out. The ultimate question though is can anyone else on the planet do this, or does the ocean react like this to anyone else? And we do see in this movie that it takes the chicken. And because the chicken almost drowns, and it like saves the chicken, it throws it under deck, and it like closes the hatch, and it kind of like makes sure the hatch is closed. And Moana kind of laughs at this as if the ocean did that on its own accord, and that she didn't have anything to do with it. So I get the feeling that the ocean itself is sentient, and she's just there to observe it.
But that's why I brought up the stick charts. I mean, that kind of fits in where you have the sailors using the feel of the waves to navigate themselves, and this chart somehow told them how to do that. I mean, that's different than the seas parting, and then you get like a psychedelic aquarium because the ocean just decided to do that for you. That is a very different thing than a stick chart, I get, but you can draw a little bit of a line there.
So the underlying premise of this whole movie, I guess, is that they live on this island, and the coconuts are going bad, and the fish aren't there anymore. They're basically all going to starve any day now because no food's around. That's the plot driver, the impetus for the movie, which actually is. This is one of those times. Sometimes, even for a movie you love, you hear the original idea and you're like, "That's stupid." This one was smart. They were just looking into Polynesian history. You could say that's another culture that Disney can stamp their IP on, I guess, if you want. Which, of course,
they're going to get held. They really did it. They held a press conference where they were like, "Oh, it'll be the first Tahitian language, dubbed film that Disney's going to do officially." So they, made a big deal about it. But they were just apparently looking into Polynesian history, where about 2,000 years ago, because of ocean current changes, it's one of those things nobody knows. Everyone did kind of stop sailing for a while, for about 1,000 years. and then start it up again. They're like, why don't we do our movie where it starts up again? Because that's kind of interesting. And it is. That's why this movie's pretty good.
And the premise is that she's the princess and the king has a pretty big disagreement. She thinks that we should go and search for fish beyond the reef. And he says, no one ever goes beyond the reef. And I guess that's a description of the old way and the new way that you're talking about, where the old way was for 1,000 years, the currents have changed, so we can't go out sailing anymore. And she represents this new way, which is that time is over and now we can go out sailing. In fact, we have to, otherwise we're going to die if we don't.
I have to say, as being the resident space communist Trekkie guy around here, recent Trek has gotten to a thing where they kept doing prequels, and they were like, we can't do this. They sent the ship like 1,000 years in the future. So in the future, they're in this setting where it's kind of similar to Polynesia, where they've been space faring and, you know, the Federation, all that sort of stuff. And then this thing called the burn happens, and nobody can travel faster than the speed of light anymore for like whatever period of time, and that gets fixed. And the newer shows are dealing like the ramifications of the fact that everyone had to isolate themselves for like 100 years or something. And now now we can actually explore again, which is kind of what this movie is doing as well. We only meet Maui, we don't meet other islands in this one. But
yeah, that means it's basically a Polynesian, or in that case, a Star Trek version of the Dark Ages, right? Where all of a sudden all progress and all your ability to share new information and get new information comes to some sort of a stalemate or a plateau for a while.
And it's how we think. It's how maps work, you know. That's what now. How I'm curious. How do you use your GPS? I'll often not use a GPS at all. Walking, I might use it. I'll always go top down. I was reading something like, to save your mental skills, make sure to do top down and not just looking straight, and then it tells you to turn left or right. And I've never done that. How do you use a GPS?
Always top down. Yeah.
Okay.
Always top down and north pointing up.
Same here. Okay, so I'm still reading the maps and stuff. I think my spatial skills are still there. But you go back to the Dark Ages, as you said, and some of those early maps were just like scrolls. They would say, go to this town, look for this landmark, but it had no spatial thing. It was a straight line. It was a scroll. So your path might curve a lot. You just have to make sure to ask people along the way, you know?
When I was driving cross country in like late 90s, early 2000s, going into like a AAA office and sitting down with a AAA person with this huge list of like 4 or 5 booklets where they would sit down and like draw on a marker, like, okay, then you're going to go here and then you're going to take this exit. And it was still top down, but it was top down, but you'd have to like flip through like 200 or 300 pages. And I think that just that process made it so I'm always going to be top down.
Yeah, the map book I just read, by the way, it's called a Which Way Up, which I guess I'm spouting out half the information I read in there, so that makes it worth reading. It was one of those books where it's too gimmicky. Like each chapter has like a gimmick or some writing gimmick, and that got a little bit annoying. But I guess the information
they all need a little bit. They all need some kind of help.
Adds a little spice. A few of the gimmicks were better than some of the other gimmicks, right? A few of them made the book like interminable to read for a chapter, and a few of them were quite fun. So, a mixed bag there. I think the other one I read last week, I think maybe it was called The Puzzle of Polynesia. So it's just when I'm spouting out a bunch of facts from a book, I want to at least try and get the title out there,
Okay, and all cards on the table, I've been reading Frazer's Golden Bough, unabridged edition. When
did you start?
I started maybe 2 months ago, and I'm on like book 2.5,
12.
3. No, 12? I'm not on book 12 yet. I have.
There are 12 though, right?
There are 12, and then I have read the abridged version, but the abridged version is just a single volume that's like 700 pages. The unabridged is like 7,000 pages.
But if I were to read it, I would. You start there. Would you be? I don't know. I read all of Zachary and Stitchin's books and did not read the consolidated version they made. So
I don't think you can read the abridged version and think that you've got the premise. The abridged version, it is definitely a Cliff Notes. The abridged version feels way more like reading a dictionary or an encyclopedia. and then missing, like, the encyclopedia doesn't tell you how all of those things connect to each other, other than like they're all animals, or that they're all, whatever the category is. The unabridged version of Golden Bough actually spells out and makes the connections and lets you know what all these things are. So I did look up some of the Golden Bough where Frazer talks about Maui by name, which I thought was really interesting.
I guess I should do it. I did work my way through the Manly P. Hall ones. That was like 10 years ago, so I probably
Secret Teachings of All Ages.
Yeah. I did power my way through it, but that was in like 2016. So
I used to have a yearly New Year's resolution to read that entire thing. I did it 4 years in a row, and then I did it another twice, but I like took 2 years off, read it, took 2 years off, read it. I don't have the time or motivation to do it anymore. But yeah, I've read the entire Secret Teachings of All Ages at least 5 or 6 times in its entirety, plus the reader's edition, along with the Diamond Jubilee edition that was like all printed out and everything. I would say you could probably read that 10 times over and still be done faster than reading through the Golden Bough.
Yeah, that's why I was asking about your timeline on reading that.
It'll be a while. It'll take a little while, but it's something that I could never see myself regretting even second. I definitely regret some of the time we've spent watching some of these movies. I won't mention any specific strange magic names, but there's a few of them out there.
How about the stars? Of course, they do make a big thing about going by star. How much? Can you pay attention to the sky at all in Orlando? You might have too many lights.
Yeah, we have way too much light pollution. When I grew up in upstate New York, then there was really not that same issue. Like, you could actually look at the stars. Here, it's a lot harder to see anything.
Okay, because I got a few walks that at night I'm going home from work, and especially on Thursday nights, where if the sky is clear, I'm definitely like charting where the stars are through the entire year. My anchors, Orion, which of course soon is going to go bye, and I won't be able to do it again until late summer. But maybe I'm not looking at the sky. I'm disconnected
from all that. I miss it because every once in a while I'll go somewhere on vacation where you don't have as much light pollution, and it's a reminder of like, oh wow, this used to be the original movie theater. This is where everyone would go and talk about what happened last night in their favorite show.
Yeah, January 2nd, 3rd, we stayed at a bed and breakfast in the mountains and went out at night, and it was completely clear, and there was a full moon. I did not want the full moon that night. So, but what can you do?
The other big conflict on this movie too is that Moana wants to go out beyond these waves. Her dad is saying no, but then her grandma is basically telling her like, "Don't listen to your dad, honey. Just do, like, you have to go and do this thing," even though he's saying no. So there's definitely not cohesion within this royal family.
That kind of happens though. My wife's Japanese. We got married in Japan. We went back to the States for a couple years, and we're like, oh, we want to go back to Japan. And it was kind of my aunt that said, "Do what you need to do to me," in the end, just do what you got to do. So we came back. But yeah, my aunt kind of gave not that my parents were like super against it, but I felt a little bit bad because I'm an only child. But in the end, the aunt did kind of push me in that direction, like grandma kind of does.
You might have a Disney movie coming out soon. Then it's basically your version of Moana.
That's right. I'm gonna sing whatever the fake "Let It Go" is. I'll sing a song of longing.
And then there's also the "You're Welcome" song. But that was like The Rock's main song in this one, right? So
I can look up the titles specifically if you would like.
Well, he kept saying "You're welcome." I'm just assuming that was the name of the song. And I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the song, not a fan of The Rock singing any songs, but it is still not as bad as Strange Magic. Like, even this might be my least favorite song next to the Mila Kunis songs, but I still would rather listen to those again than anything in Strange Magic.
Sorry, it actually took me longer than I thought to find the titles. What is The Rock singing? "You're Welcome." Yeah, that one. "Where You Are," I guess, is the big, or "How Far I'll Go." Excuse me, "How Far I'll Go" is the
best song by far.
The one where they're trying to win the Oscar for original song. Sorry, the best song by far is the Crab song.
Shiny.
Yes, that's the name of the song. Okay. Random reach. Yeah. Anyway, the music, I guess. it was the guy that did Hamilton, was it, that did the music? I think.
Okay, sure.
That's right. I've never seen Hamilton actually, but yeah, it's that guy. Okay, he did the music for this. I think he does the music for a couple other films as well.
What's his name? Like Luis Manuel or something?
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at his name, and it's one of those names that you just can't quite remember for whatever reason. Lin-Manuel Miranda. Okay.
There you go. I was close enough.
Yeah. I don't know why that one just doesn't stick for whatever reason.
I like it. I mean, out of all the different musicals that we've listened to recently, like I don't like the music in this one, but I think they did a good job with it, if that makes sense. Like I don't have to like it to acknowledge that it wasn't bad.
Like they're clearly trying to go full Broadway, right? Which does not appeal, definitely not to you, and not to me either, actually. But same with Frozen.
It's a valiant effort, and it feels like someone that does appreciate this would like it. And that song in particular, the "You're Welcome" song by The Rock, even though I don't like the song part, the visuals of that one, it had this really cool blend of 2D and 3D, which like I guess like a 2.5D kind of look. And I just thought that looked so great. I almost wish the whole movie was kind of like that, because they sort of do it in the credits, they sort of do it in this section, and they kind of do it again at the end, where they have this like 2D, 3D mix going on.
I can't confirm this happened, but I know Frozen, and it turned me off to Frozen because I think I did say in that episode, my buddy and I's theater trailer comes on for Frozen before Guardians or something, and it's just the Let It Go sequence. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to see that. It's the exact wrong marketing to show to me. Don't show me the Broadway show-stopping number. I think Moana did the same thing in Japanese theaters, and the trailer was just her longing song, right?
The longing song or the I Am Moana song?
Her song of longing, the what I keep call it facetiously calling the fake Let It Go, and I already forgot where you excuse me, How Far I'll Go. See the names here.
Okay. I didn't like the message. I didn't like the message of that song.
No, the problem, I get the title problem. All of the titles are just so anonymous. Where you are, how far I'll go, we know the way, you're welcome. Like those don't. There's nothing there to stick in your brain.
Fair enough. And I Am Moana is a little bit on the nose.
Yeah. There is a song that starts off in, I guess, Tahitian, and then within 10 seconds is not in Tahitian. I thought they should have just done the whole thing in Tahitian. I didn't need to understand it, did I? I can figure out what's happening.
Yeah, fair point. I don't think we needed to hear what I didn't need to understand it to understand that they were singing, whatever. Also, this movie ends with a Gaia-like entity that turns into an island, so like her body and her head and everything turn into mountains and stuff. This opened up a whole conspiratorial can of worms. I don't know how far you've been on the recesses of the internet, but there's
just to reiterate, that's almost the same design I think that we saw in Fantasia 2000, and one of the only good sequences.
Yeah, it's a fairly popular motif, but there is an actual group of people that legitimately think certain mountains that look like faces because they are faces, and that there might have been these giants that just became fossilized over time, and that what we see as these big mountain ranges or peaks are actually just the head of a previous Nephilim giant.
Oh, I heard a slightly different weird version of that, where the mountains are all melted ancient buildings.
Well, it's tangential, right? So the ancient melted buildings came from a big laser in the sky, and it comes from this global reset premise. There's like a red brick theory where it just melted red bricks, and then you can. It's a fun rabbit hole to go down, but this one in particular, it goes into the mountains and landscapes are living entities and living creatures. I assume there's like a Japanese analog to that.
Hell yeah, that's Shinto.
Shinto is that like the mountains are gods or creatures?
Yes, the mountains are. Do you know what sumo is?
Go on.
Okay, a sumo ring is basically a shrine. I think I mentioned before that women cannot go in, so the current prime minister is not welcome inside the sumo ring. A guy had a heart attack, and they wouldn't let the lady doctor in. Above it is the actual shrine. If you look up, there's a big wooden thing. There's a whole lot of ceremony. And the Sumo wrestlers. Let me find a few recent sumo wrestler names because they are even in Japanese. They're a little bit weird. Wrestler names. Sorry,
Are there any ever cool ones like Ultimate Warrior?
No, they're all like Hakuho, Teruno Fuji, Chiono Fuji. You're hearing Fuji a lot. Sumo wrestlers are supposed to be battling mountains. They're supposed to represent the gods of the mountains at battle.
Okay, so yeah, fits right into Japanese culture. Maybe old world Tartarians would have more luck with Japanese people.
Where there's a whole Mu idea, the Pan idea that, you know, if ocean levels were lower at some time or before some kind of catastrophe, you know, there would have been more of a continent out here with Japan and Polynesian islands being like the remaining peaks.
So another thing, I had to do a little bit of research on this one. So the god's name is Maui, but Maui in my Rockefeller American trained brain was like, that's Hawaii, right? Maui. Well, no, Maui appears in Hawaiian culture, in Maori culture, in Samoan culture, in Tahitian culture, like all of Polynesian culture, all kind of shares Maui. So I just thought that was important enough to point out. And once I realized that, I kind of came to appreciate Moana a little bit more.
Well, yeah, it's like Queensland is pretty far away from the Queen, you know, Australian province of Queensland, not close to the Queen at all. So place can be named after something somewhere else.
And I think it's also really interesting because he has so many similar traits as other gods that we're kind of familiar with. So they cover some of the broad strokes on this when they're describing Maui and what's happening to him, but he slows down the sun and he steals the fire. This is kind of like Prometheus, right? Like this is like a Promethean thing. He also is the one that fishes up the islands and he tries to defeat death, but he fails. And this is kind of like a Dionysian thing where like he represents sort of the agricultural aspect on top of that, getting food to your people, getting things to grow. So he kind of represents a whole bunch of different Western gods, or at least like the Western archetypes, all wrapped up into one shape-shifting demigod.
Yeah, of course, the fish hook is also a big part of that. I mean, I guess that's one of their constellations, right? So when we're looking up and seeing the Greek mythology in the sky in one way or another, I mentioned Orion already, you know, they're seeing the fish hook. They're seeing completely different constellations. And Maui is one of the big ones.
Oh, I didn't get that. So the fish hook is like an astrological reference.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously when you can see the sky that well and you need to navigate at night sometimes a lot, because I'm sure these are more than 1 day journeys most of the time. Yeah, you have a completely different set of constellations, and Maui is in the way that, you know, we have Hercules staring down at us from the sky. And if you're especially living in ancient Greece, that's a big deal. Maui's always looking at you from the sky, you know?
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that even more on the cosmology angle. And also like this whole system of rules within this cosmology is called tapu. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And again, like no matter where you're at in Polynesia, there's a version tapu, kapu, and taboo. And this is actually where the English word taboo comes from. It comes from this Polynesian concept of like these unwritten laws.
Yeah. Let's see. I was saying my anchor's Orion. Maui's just joking about a human sacrifice, or is he? That was one, you know, that was the trickster god a bit as well. So you, when he does start saying that, you're like, I don't know, he might actually mean that.
Yeah, he's got like a little bit of Loki kind of energy to him.
Oh, definitely, he's the you know, Loki sort of guy here.
I mean, like that because he doesn't come across as a good guy or a bad guy. He's kind of both. Like he is a bad guy for sure in some ways, and he is a good guy in some ways. But it's like a chaotic neutral, maybe.
I feel like that's most ancient mythology, like partly around the world. You know, you just mentioned Loki. You know, Odin sometimes does some horrible stuff. Zeus certainly does horrible stuff, and other times he's supposed to be the, you know, main god of the Olympians. Everyone's kind of up to a bit of tomfoolery, you know, in ancient mythology. So why not Maui as well?
Yeah, and I guess a better way to put it is that like he's not a hero. Like Maui's not necessarily a hero in a traditional Western sense.
Well, that's why you mentioned Prometheus. He stole knowledge, and that can be a heroic act depending on how you look at it. I mean, I guess you could also say Robert Oppenheimer stole knowledge in a way from nature, and that didn't work out as well.
And speaking of Polynesia, that was the Bikini Atoll was,
still got a big hole in there. I looked on Google Maps yesterday, and no one's living near there. I did find a few buildings like a few miles away, but I'm thinking
around there.
Oh, they live under the sea there. Yeah, I found a few buildings, but I'm like, those might be from the 50s. I don't think anyone still lives there.
There's a rabbit hole there too. You look into all of the different military intelligence that was at the atolls. Yeah, you'll find some pretty deep connections. That's maybe for another episode.
Do you spend much time? I do have a weird tendency to go looking at small Polynesian islands on Google Maps a lot.
No, I do not. I can't say that I've done that.
Okay, I don't know somehow how my brain's put together. I just found the island community a fascinating thing because you're trying to create like a society that's functional, but you only have a couple hundred people probably. So, and I don't even want to see the nature part. I'll go like clicking on like the restaurants just to see what they're like, or the stores. What's it look like in the store there? That's my weird fascination. And if it's got a street view, sure, I'll hit the street view. A lot of times it doesn't. So,
well, first big meetup will be the Occult Disney in Japan, and then maybe Occult Disney in Polynesia.
There we go. Well, I think it kind of came from one. I live in Japan; it's an island, right? And we had a company trip to one of these southern Okinawan islands. Actually, I've been there 3 times now. It's Miyako Island. It's smaller than the main island of Okinawa. And I've always just found it fascinating because it's nowhere close to any other land. Like at least 50 kilometers to another small island, But they got the supermarket. I don't know. Spending time there, I've just found weirdly fascinating. So I've also found it weirdly fascinating to look at other tiny islands.
Just be careful, man. Go on the wrong tiny little island. They're going to eat you.
Well, not on Google Earth. Not yet.
Well, yeah, no, not on Google Earth.
Yeah. I mean, I've had friends that, Scott, who is here for Strange Magic, he went to Palau once. And this was 15 years ago or something. And at the time, it was really hard to find stick deodorant in Japan. So my omiyage, my souvenir from Palau was a few stick deodorants.
I don't co-sign with stick deodorant.
No, I don't use them now, but 15 years ago I did, and that's when I went to Palau. So and both of us were like, they're hard to find. So he's like, I found a bunch of them here. Here you go. It's your souvenir from. Might have given me something else too, but I do remember, getting souvenirs from Palau that were deodorant.
Now, antiperspirant or non-antiperspirant?
I don't remember. It's the chalkier one, I guess.
Well, enjoy your dementia.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, should I admit I did learn you don't have to use deodorant if you take showers enough.
Sacrilege.
That I don't know. It might be because maybe the reason I couldn't find it here is just because they don't need it. They didn't get the marketing. They had the oily ones. Again, I don't know which one's antiperspirant and which one's not, but the oily ones suck. So hate those.
Well, especially if there's a more cohesive diet, then everyone kind of smells the same anyways. You got too much variety here.
I've been buying cheap, cheesy poofs at the supermarket just in the past week because the calories weren't high. But I have been noticing I've woken up in the morning with like horrible breath. So I think I'm going to have to blame the cheesy poofs and start eating. Well, I would have gotten almonds, like maple glazed almonds, but they ran out of them. That's what I usually get. Probably healthier.
So one of the other things that we've been doing on some of these episodes, the ATU index, the Aarne Thompson Uther index. So this one, I looked up a few different ones. The ones that seem to match the most, there's ATU 301, which is Hero Retrieves Magical Object. We've got that twofold in this one, right? We've got retrieving the heart, and we've got retrieving the fish hook, and both are magical objects. So I feel like that's probably one of the bigger ones. And then there's also ATU 552, which is fire or life stolen by trickster god. So there we've got Maui kind of pegged down specifically. And then there's even ATU 114-8B, which sounds like when you get lost.
Sounds like a droid from Star Wars.
Yes. Okay. this is basically how you take down the Death Star. But ATU 114-8B is island creation myths. So not only does it match these two bigger ones, but then island creation myths kind of just encapsulates all of the Polynesian culture in general. So if you want to go and find other Polynesian stories, you just look up your handy old 1114-8B ATU.
Well, I guess that's where the Polynesian mythology is interesting. And Moana doesn't teach us enough about it. If you want to learn it, you got to go somewhere else, really. But it is weird just how many parallels there are on the other side of the world, you know. Food for thought, of course. You know, Native American myths, of course. They have trickster gods and things as well. Like there's a lot of analogies from, you know, worldwide myths and religions.
So speaking of worldwide myths and religions and Native Americans too, how many non-Western Disney movies are there when it comes to like folklore style? And I can only think of, you've got Aladdin, we've got Mulan, we got Pocahontas, and we've got Hercules. And now we basically have Moana. That's pretty much it, right? Everything else is Western.
Yeah. Sorry,
maybe the Emperor's New Groove, but the Emperor's New Groove is Western.
I was about to say Pocahontas still kind of. I mean, it's got plenty of Western.
Well, yeah, let's kick that one out. So technically,
kick it out.
Aladdin, Mulan, and Hercules, and Moana.
Because in the 40s, they were like, Saludos Amigos, the Three Caballeros, when Disney was doing whatever he was doing in South America, right? But that's still South America. So there was a bit of a, and in the 40s, I guess that would have seemed like that. But yeah, now it's just like whatever. It's Donald Duck wearing a sombrero. Anything else?
A 1940s Moana would have been very problematic.
Yeah. Anything else? I'm just actually sitting here scrolling through the whole list and seeing if anything. I think you got the nail on the head. Hercules and Mulan are back-to-back releases too. That's interesting. So they did it twice in a row at that point.
So we've got Greek,
Lilo and Stitch. Chinese. At least did the Hawaii thing, although it's still America, right?
Yeah, but that just took place in Hawaii, but it wasn't really about like an actual belief system.
Yeah. No, I was sitting here thinking maybe I'll find something else, but I think you hit the nail on the head with what you said.
So it's still a short list, which is crazy. After like a century worth of movies, we only have 4 that are based on non-Western folklore.
And even now, it's more like Encanto or Elio, where it's like Latin American communities.
That counts as Western, my book.
Right, I know. They're still not going that far. What is Raya and the Last Dragon? Raya and the Last Dragon looks like it's going for something Asian, which we'll be covering before.
Okay, well, yeah, so far. And then
I'm looking in the future now. Yeah, now I'm looking in the future.
Wasn't there a Red Panda movie? Was that a Disney movie?
Turning Red. That's in a classroom and stuff, though. Let's see where it takes place. That's why I've heard. Well, I had some friends tell me it's good, so I'm looking forward to it.
I think I might have seen that one. About like a raccoon or a bear or something.
A red panda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Toronto. Okay, so no, as far as what we were talking about.
And then another thing too. I guess this is more in like a Frazer Golden Bough way, but Frazer had an interesting way of drawing analogies to stuff, and one of the analogies that really stood out to me was that when he's talking about Moana looking for this heart of Tafiti, was that is basically the Polynesian equivalent of the Holy Grail, like actually going and trying to find this thing that represents life force and authority. And he said it represented kind of like the Holy Grail, and like a few other objects in history, but I guess that's the Western version of this. And it was that important to Polynesian culture.
I would just think I do want to take it 2 steps back to that last conversation. I was the Jungle Book. Did you say Jungle Book when we were listing those? That's pretty it's Rudyard Kipling book. So
I left it out just because, again, that one's not really a belief system. It's not like it's not folklore necessarily.
Yeah. My other thought was the ones that have done Africa are Tarzan and the Lion King, neither of which have
Tarzan is
people
so
who
Western
live.
though. Tarzan.
I know
is-
that's my point.
Yeah.
Tarzan and the Lion King don't have any Africans in them. It's animals for the Lion King, and Tarzan.
Well, that's the
Tarzan.
joke is that like they can't ever make a live action Tarzan because it would be problematic. But since we've reviewed it and we know about the actual history of Tarzan, the reason they can't make a live action Tarzan, it's literally about how a British aristocrat is better than anyone else.
Yeah, I guess we got James Bond for that now. Although now James Bond's got to be a tortured soul, right? So, I mean, I like the Daniel Craig movies, but they're definitely, before that, James Bond's a superhero, right?
Some fan theories worth mentioning is that Moana died in the storm. So that one's kind of popular, but it doesn't really hold up if you try and imply it across the board.
You got to use that one sparingly, don't you? Like, I'm thinking recently, I'm like, when you said it for Ponyo, I'm like, okay, that's an interesting thought that the sea is actually dragging these people out.
This isn't one that
resonated,
but this is a popular one. Is that Moana died in the storm? There's another one that Maui is a fallen god who's regaining his power, but I guess he admits from day one
in the movie. Yeah, that's pretty much baked right into the movie, isn't it? I mean, God, demigod, does a distinction really matter in the case of Maui in this movie? He's got powers. He's godlike. That's close enough.
The other one is Te Fiti didn't actually need to be saved and didn't need the heart or any of that. She just wanted to be recognized. And I guess that's less of a fan theory and more of how it actually ended, because Moana just kind of snuggles with her for a brief moment at the end, and then everything goes back to being cool. And then Te Fiti turns into one of those mountain gods.
Yeah, some of these fan theories just it's like in Evangelion, where it's like you have to infer some things. These seem like relatively simple inferences rather than fan theories. Other than Moana dies in the storm, that one I just don't like.
Yeah, it's the Bob Newhart thing, right? It was a dream the whole time. Or that's the laziest version of most of these Disney conspiracy fan theories, is like they were dead the whole time. It was Sixth Sense.
Well, Grandma's kind of the conspiracy theorist in this one, isn't she? She's like, I know about the old ships. I'll show you where the old ships are. You don't know what was actually going on. And everyone else is just like, especially Dad is just walking on, la, 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 la. So,
well, Grandma for sure was a shaman. Like, no question about it. She was the shaman.
Yeah. So she's, and it's like weird because it's been 1,000 years where these people have not been moving, I guess, historically or something like that. So, yeah. How long, when it is interesting to think of the psychology of when they became completely isolationist. How long did that take? How long was it like we want to go out, but we can't, until it just became we shouldn't go out?
Which is an interesting plot point of this movie, because, like the dad represents those people, and then Moana is the new generation that is ready to stop thinking that way. Like,
it's nice that toddler Moana has her magical moment with the sea, and the sea loves her, but Chief is still correct. You keep your toddlers away from the water,
And she almost drowns a couple times. I don't think the ocean would let her drown because of how it favors her, but she kind of gets into a fight, and that's probably my favorite line in the entire movie, was she almost drowns. She washes back up on shore, and then she yells at the ocean, and she just goes, "Fish pee in you."
Well, they do. One other thing in the animation, I wonder if it is because this is like at the time old guard people making this movie, is we did have those stylized blasts of 2D animation, which I'll take at this point because we're so 2D animation starved by now, It's like, yes, please give me those stories.
The whole intro was like traditional 2D animation. I appreciated it. And like I mentioned before, like the rock song, the You're Welcome one, that one had like a really interesting blend of the 2D, 3D going as well. Again, right. I wish that more of that in this movie. I didn't dislike the 3D. I think the 3D looked great, but it made me like reminisce more and miss the 2D animation more than the 3D.
Well, I am curious if Musker and Clements came in wanting to make this 2D, and at this point it's like, sorry, no.
We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I'm looking at development of film. They did a lot of traveling to islands, but they were just doing what I wanted to do, right? Um, but one of the reasons was that the environment, including the ocean, benefited much more from the use of CG as opposed to traditional animation. Come on, 2016, no one's even thinking about that. I'm pretty sure Disney just like do it. You know, this isn't.
And
gonna
again,
be
if we just pop on freaking Snow White, man, like Snow White is still holds up as phenomenal animation.
But this one does use the tools in a nice artistic way, more so than a lot of the other movies. Because even Pixar, it sometimes feels a little more utilitarian with even as impressive as the animation is, it's kind of utilitarian. Like Toy Story, the original, which doesn't look good compared to most Pixar films, but the idea is like, let's frame the shots like it's a live action movie because we've never done that in animation. Pixar's still kind of doing that, where Musker and Clements are like, no, let's direct this to look good in animation. So that's why this movie I think pops so hard. I mean, Princess and the Frog, I barely remember the plot of that movie, but I remember what an awful lot of it looked like,
Yeah, Princess and the Frog is not top tier.
It's not, but I remember images from that film very easily because these guys can direct really good looking animation. So
yeah, and honestly, the song in this movie, Shiny, has a scene where it goes kind of blacklight neon that reminded me a lot of the Princess and the Frog song, which is my favorite in that movie, where it gets blacklight and neon.
So, well, they Musker and Clements always kind of knock the villain song out of the park, don't they? They got the yearning song, and which Disney has weaponized in other things like Frozen, and they got the villain song, which I don't feel like we get so many villain songs anymore. We should get more villain songs. Was the last villain song Princess and the Frog?
I mean, isn't Shiny technically that crab is kind of a villain?
No, I'm saying this is the first one since then, because like you said, it plugs in with the Princess and the Frog song pretty well. So has there been one in between?
A
good villain song?
It pains me to bring up Strange Magic, but Strange Magic did have a villain song.
It didn't have a good villain song.
No, it didn't have
I'm scrolling lists so much today, but I don't think we've had, because Frozen did not because they fake it. The eventual villain actually sings the love song with Anna, right? So there isn't a villain song so much.
And I still don't even think he's the villain. I think the villains are the people that raised what the hell was the
Tangled. Okay, Tangled had a major villain song. The Trust Mommy or whatever. Mother Knows Best. Yeah, that has hardcore villain song.
Okay, yeah, okay.
There's one. And then you could call out the Baxton song from Winnie the Pooh, but those are the heroes singing about their paranoia. So that
doesn't count. But Winnie the Pooh doesn't have villains.
I just wanted to bring up Winnie the Pooh and the Baxton song. That's all. You got anything else on Moana?
We've done A to U, we've done Frazer, we've done the whole occult decode breakdown. We've talked about conspiracy theories and Tartarian buildings being melted by space lasers. I think we're ready to put a pin in Moana.
Okay. Oh, also, when I asked my daughter, she said she liked Moana better than Frozen. She forgot Zootopia. She did not remember the music from this movie. I specifically asked, "Do you remember the songs from Moana?" She was like, "No."
Yeah.
Okay,
understandable. It wasn't even in English. I don't really remember them either.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't seen any of these. She might have watched them since, but the big viewings were 10 years ago. So it's kind of that's why I was asking. I was like, "Oh, what stuck?" From actually showing my daughter these movies as a kid and what didn't. So Zootopia didn't stick at all, despite being a good movie. But yeah, it's Chinatown for kids. So Chinatown for kids might not be for real little kids.
And also, even if Disney gives you a little bit of acknowledgement culturally, they're not going to put their entire marketing behind it unless it's like, I guess Tiki Room is a different example, right? But pretty much all the songs they turn into earworms and they pump through the parks and they pump into their commercials. Let It Go is probably the one that they've pumped the hardest out of all of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can't get away from that song even now, can you? People can't let that song go, can they?
Stop.
Yeah, I'll stop. Okay. I don't know. Plug people with the plug you want to plug. Like
Yeah,
the last
I mean,
plug you did, I don't have to run to the restroom this time, so you can do whatever plug you want.
well, this one is an easy one. Go to paranoidamerican.com. I've got a limited edition 2026 sampler kit right there on the front page. It's got 3 of the mini comics that we've come out with. It's got a few different stickers. It's got a conspiracy card, trading card, and it has a perpetual occult calendar. It's like a little day planner that works for any year. So even if you get it halfway through the year, you can use it for any years that you want. And you can get all of that combined into one little package with free shipping if you're in the States. If you're in Japan, or if you're in Australia, or if you're in New Zealand, if that even exists, then you can reach out to me and I'll get you some good shipping on it. But for everyone, stateside is the cheapest that you're ever going to be able to get all these mini comics and all this stuff together in one bundle. And I think I've got maybe like 40 of them left. So hopefully there's still a couple left by the time you're hearing this.
All right. I talk about movies and TV shows all day. Well, every morning, most mornings. Head to podcastio.org. Films and Filth, talking about really good movies, really bad movies. Right now, we're talking about all the Fast and Furious movies. Time Enough Podcast does The Twilight Zone. We did the original. We're now talking about the 2019 Twilight Zone. And what else there? Podcast 1999. We are talking about the bizarre 70s Planet of the Apes animated series. You want to see that or you don't. We also talked about the live action one. How many people are actually interested in 70s apes anymore, other than the movies? That's a pretty niche topic, maybe. Get into my niche topic. Sail to the Planet of the Apes.
Just buy something. Just buy something. From Paranoid American. Just buy something. Just buy something. From Paranoid American. Get some merch, buy some art. Click that link, add to cart. Say it back, need that print. Nod your head, give consent. Buy a comic, 3 or 4. Think this thought, I want more. Buy a sticker from the store. Think this thought, I want more. Just buy something. Just buy something. From Paranoid American. Just buy something. Just buy something. From Paranoid American.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Matters not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.